Welcome to another deep dive. Today we are going to be looking into the world of color. We've got some fascinating research or observations on how we actually perceive it,
Yeah.
like how we see color in our everyday life.
Mm.
And to start us off, got a simple question for you. What color is a mirror?
Ooh, that's a good one. Most people would probably say silver, but it's not so straightforward.
I was going to say silver too, and it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
how they're usually shown.
Right. But the truth is more complex.
Okay, so spill the beans. What's the real deal with mirrors?
So a perfect mirror wouldn't have any color. It would just perfectly reflect every single color hitting it. This is because of something called specular reflection.
Specular reflection.
Yeah. That's why you see the reflection, whatever is in front of it, not the mirror itself.
So the mirror is kind of like a chameleon then. Just
Yeah.
changes to whatever's around it.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the catch. Real-world mirrors actually have a slight green tint.
Wait, what? Green?
Yeah.
I've literally never noticed that.
Oh, it's really subtle. Most people don't. But scientifically, every time light hits a mirror, just a tiny bit gets absorbed. And for most mirrors, that absorption happens to favor green wavelengths.
Whoa! Okay, so every time I've looked in a mirror, it's been a slightly green version of me.
Yeah.
I can't believe I've never noticed.
Right. It's really wild when you think about it.
It really makes you wonder what other subtle things we just don't pick up on.
Totally. Like,
Yeah.
it just shows that even these seemingly perfect objects, they have imperfections, and those tiny little quirks are what make them unique.
That's true. I wonder if that green tint, subconsciously affects how we see ourselves.
Yeah, it makes you question something you use every day. Speaking of mirrors and this whole white thing,
Yeah.
this brings up a super interesting point. Did you know that white and black, as different as they seem, actually come from the same root word?
No way.
Yeah.
Seriously.
It's true.
They seem so fundamentally different.
I know, right? But they both go back to this Proto-Indo-European word, bleg, which meant to shine, burn, or flash.
Right.
And over time, different languages took this word and interpreted it differently.
Okay, so how did we end up with white for one and black for the other?
Some languages focused on the brightness of that flash, and that became white. Others focused on what happens after something burns, the charred remains, and that led to black.
Wow. That's just insane. Language is so bizarre.
It really is. And this just shows you these completely opposite ideas actually have a connection.
Yeah.
Like with that green tint in a perfect mirror, language has these unexpected links that totally challenge our perceptions.
Totally. It shows you that nothing is ever truly black and white.
Haha. Speaking of colors that mess with our heads, blue eyes don't even have blue pigment.
Yeah, that one always gets me.
It's crazy. So how does that even work?
So it's not about pigment at all. It's all because of something called Rayleigh scattering.
Rayleigh scattering.
Yeah. So think about sunlight hitting those tiny air molecules. Up in the atmosphere,
Okay.
the longer wavelengths like red and yellow, they pass through pretty much undisturbed.
But those shorter wavelengths, especially blue light, they get scattered everywhere.
Okay, so the blue light bounces around more.
Yeah.
And that's why we see the sky as blue.
Exactly.
But how does that work with our eyes?
Similar idea. The iris, the colored part of your eye, it has a layer where light can scatter, just like in the sky. Those short blue wavelengths scatter more, making blue the main color we see.
So blue eyes aren't actually absorbing all the other colors and reflecting just blue. It's just that the blue light is bouncing around more.
You got it.
Yeah.
And melanin also plays a role.
Melanin.
Yeah, the pigment that gives our skin, hair, and eyes their color,
Right.
the amount of melanin in your iris, changes how much light is scattered and absorbed. And that creates all the different eye colors we see, blue, green, hazel, brown.
So it all comes down to how light interacts with stuff and the way our eyes are structured.
It really is amazing. Like, it just shows how physics and biology work together to create something as cool as eye color.
That is super cool. And speaking of cool, did you know that the human eye can distinguish up to 10 million different colors? That's mind-blowing.
It really is.
It makes you wonder, though, do we all see those 10 billion colors the same way?
That's a great question. It kind of goes back to that whole idea of things being subjective.
Right.
Even though we have these basic colors that we all agree on, the way we actually perceive them, it can be affected by tons of stuff.
Like what?
Like the actual structure of our eyes,
Yeah.
our cultural backgrounds, even just our personal experiences.
That makes sense. It's like that whole if a tree falls in a forest thing.
Exactly.
If no one's there to see it, Does color even exist?
Uh-huh, yeah. Color isn't just some objective property, It doesn't just exist on its own. It's a total interplay of light, matter, and how we see things.
So it's totally possible that what I see is blue, someone else might see completely differently.
Exactly. And you know what? If we all saw color the exact same way, the world would be a lot less interesting.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Like, imagine everyone seeing a sunset the same way,
Yeah.
or having the same reaction to, like, a shade of green.
Yeah, it would be pretty boring.
It's the fact that we all see things a little differently. That makes art and nature and everything so cool.
Totally.
It's like everyone's got their own little filter
Yeah.
that makes their experience
It
unique.
makes you appreciate the variety.
Definitely. I feel like after this deep dive, I'm like seeing the world with new eyes.
Uh-huh. I know what you mean.
Like I'm noticing all these little things I never did before.
Like what?
Like how light changes color during the day, or how different colors play off each other.
Yeah. It's like learning something new makes you see everything in a new light.
Literally.
Yeah, exactly. And the best part is, our understanding of color is always changing. Scientists are constantly finding out new stuff about how we see and process it.
It's pretty crazy to think about. Like maybe in the future, people will see colors we can't even imagine.
It's definitely possible. Our brains are limited by our biology. Who knows what's out there beyond our perception?
Yeah. Like there could be a whole universe of color we're missing out on.
It's a humbling thought.
It is. But it's also exciting to think that even in this day and age, there's still so much to discover,
Totally.
even about something as basic as color.
It's one of the things that makes life so interesting.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, we've been talking a lot about the science behind it all, but
We can't forget about like the cultural side of it too, like how different cultures see and use color. And language. I mean, black and white coming from the same word. Still crazy.
yeah, it really shows you how much language affects how we think about the world.
Totally.
Like the words we use for colors, they don't just describe what we see, they shape how we understand it, how we categorize things.
Like our brains are kind of tricked by language in a way.
In a way, yeah. It makes you wonder, do people who speak different languages with totally different color words, do they actually see color differently?
That's a good question.
It's something researchers are still trying to figure out. But no matter what language we speak, I think this deep dive has shown color is way more than meets the eye.
Literally.
Haha. Right. It's not just a simple thing. It's this whole mix of physics and biology and language and culture and our own personal experiences.
It's kind of like everyone sees their own unique version of color.
Exactly.
This has been such a cool deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too.
We've gone from like light and reflections to how our eyes work, to the history of words.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
But I think the biggest takeaway is color is way more complex than we realize.
For sure.
It's not just out there in the world. It's how light and matter and our brains all come together.
It's our experience.
Yeah, and that's something I think our listeners should remember. As you go about your day, like challenge yourself. Look for the little details in color you haven't noticed before. Think about how other people might be seeing things differently. Because ultimately, the beauty of color, it's not just the science of it, it's how each of us uniquely experiences it.
Well said.
That's all from us for this deep dive into the world of color. Thanks for listening.